My name is Craig Forrest, and I'm the Director of the Marine and Shipping Law Unit at the T.C. Burns School of Law, University of Queensland. I've had a long connection with the Underwater Cultural Heritage Convention, having been part of the South African delegation to negotiate that convention. So I'm very interested in seeing how the convention is adopted by countries and how it plays out, etc. So this particular session looks at the legal systems that protect underwater cultural heritage from a number of different national perspectives, hopefully in a way that promotes adoption of the convention and ratification of the convention. So this session follows on from the very first session of the conference, which looks at the convention and a whole lot of matters related to that convention. And at the end of the session, what we do is to look at the national laws of 3 jurisdictions. There's a paper on China, a paper on Sri Lanka, and a paper on Hong Kong. And then myself and a colleague look at the way in which those different jurisdictions, and particularly in the Asia-Pacific region, can use a model law to translate the convention into national legislation.
Okay. So what do you hope to see accomplished in this overall research area over the, say, next 10 years or so?
Ratification and protection. I mean, what we really want to do is promote the convention in a way that participants can go back to the country and see the advantages of the convention, see the way other countries have adopted the convention, and hopefully translate that into ratification and then national law that protects the cultural heritage.
So what are some of the greatest challenges that this area faces?
Look, there are a couple of challenges. One of the challenges which we hope the session does overcome is simply understanding what the convention does. There's misunderstandings about the convention sometimes, there's misinterpretations about the convention. So the first thing we hope to achieve is clarification and interpretation of the convention itself. I mean, for many countries, particularly in the Pacific region, one of the great difficulties is simply having the facilities to address the issue. And I don't mean that in just a practical sense, I mean it in a legal sense. You need legal drafters who understand the convention, understand how to turn that into national law, and sometimes that's very difficult. So there's a need for expertise in this area, both practically in the sense of maritime archaeologists who can actually do the work and protect it, but also in the case of national drafters who can draft the legislation, make the laws, translate that into enforceable laws so that the police can undertake arrests when there's smuggling, undertake arrests when there's cell walls coming in, etc. So there's a whole lot of practical challenges, but a lot of those practical challenges will only follow on after there's the challenges for the legal process to actually be addressed.
So that kind of touches on the next question too. I was going to ask if there are any areas, be they geographic or thematic or personnel, that you feel are underrepresented in this area, and how would you hope to address those gaps?
Well, certainly the Asia-Pacific region is, if you talk about a representation in the sense that I understand what you might be talking about, and understand that in the sense that I want to understand it, is that there's massive underrepresentation in the Asia-Pacific region in the convention. So there's no ratifications in this region. And so when you get to the scientific committee that meets in Paris, that committee is made up of state parties. So there's no representation from this region in that committee. When the deliberations occur in the General Assembly or at the United Nations or UNESCO about these issues, if you're not a state party, you don't get to participate in those deliberations. So unless states buy into this, or someone from this region buys into this, there is no representation in those debates. And so those states are going to be left behind in terms of the development. So there's massive underrepresentation at an international level.
Any other comments you'd like to make?
Ratify the convention. But there is, I mean, part of this process is for the archaeologists, because it's shown so often that in most of the states that have adopted this convention, the persuasive argument has come from the maritime archaeologists, which is why we have these sessions at these kind of conferences. And it really is for the archaeologists to go back to their jurisdictions and to explain the importance of the underwater cultural heritage, and to lobby from that perspective, how it benefits communities, how it benefits education, just the great benefits that it can give any nation, and through that process persuade countries to protect it and then to become party to the convention.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.